Hi, what's going on guys? It's Almond. Welcome back to another Wizard101 video. In today's video, we're going to be going over challenge mode Tartarus. Now within this video, we'll go over all the bosses, some cheats, some alternate strategies that you can do, as well as just of course go over Hades and some things that are dropped as well in this dungeon. Whether you're on challenge mode or standard modes, the drops are basically the same, other than challenge mode having extra rates of course. But basically we'll be going all through the strategies and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So if you do enjoy this type of content, remember to like the video, subscribe, remember to comment as well. It does help out with the algorithm quite a lot, and as well as everything I show in this video, like slide wise, image wise, will all be in the Discord. This is like the final video I'm doing regarding challenge mode stuff in Aquila, so everything that I've posted the past couple of days will all be in the Discord as well. So if you are a visual learner, I mean, you can watch the video, but if you just want to see the still images, those would be in the Discord as well. And then when it comes to spell elements as well, there's already a video on the channel of where to farm spell elements and how to farm spell elements, and that's just through Sisyphus, and there's a guide on it in that video how to do it on standard and on challenge mode. And if you have any questions, let me know as well in the comments down below or ping me in the Discord. Now when it comes to strategies, we're going to be going over a storm hitter strat. Of course, I'm going to talk about some alternate strategies per fight, and you guys can adjust accordingly. The challenge mode variation of Tartarus is really not that bad. It's honestly pretty easy, just because you're doing the same thing in basically every fight, so you guys will see what I'm talking about. But of course, let's go over the deck setups first, because a lot of you guys have been enjoying this whole deck setup portion of the video, so let's get into that. Now person one should be a person that's weaved into storm. It's okay if you're not weaved into storm. I know some people do mention that, like, hey, what if I'm a balance or whatever, but ideally you should do storm weaving on all your characters, at least rank 1. And then you do need donate power. You can train it, or you can actually just get treasure cards. This isn't donate power, the one that gives 3 pips. This is just one that gives 2 pips. So you just need regular donate power, train it, or get the treasure cards. Then you need an elemental blade. This can be a pet elemental blade, or this can be a jewel that you can have socketed on, maybe like a tier jewel or something. That's an option as well. Then you also need windstorm. You need regular windstorm, so you need to train that. And then you also need an item card. This item card has to be either an amulet or a jewel. You can also use treasure cards as a substitute. Same thing vice versa with the other one. So if you don't want to train windstorm, you can use treasure card, and then you can also have like a jewel or an amulet in your deck. If you really don't want to use training points to get windstorm, that's an option for you as well. Other than that, that's basically your deck setup. Very straightforward, only 5 cards. If you want to pack other things, by all means go for it, like extra buffs or treasure cards, you can go for it. But just have storm weaving. If not, it's not the end of the world. Just switch your buff to something else. So if you don't have a weaving blade, it doesn't have to be specifically energy blade. I'm just giving an example. But you can use a different 35 buff and just make sure it doesn't match with anyone else on your team. Then we move on to person 2. Person 2 is packing elemental blade, elemental trap. They also have a mass hex. You can get that from a wand or an amulet, depends on your personal preference. There is the headmaster wands for the packs. You can also get the wastelander, or I believe the rematch one, but those I believe are specifically for balance. So either get the headmaster one or get the amulet from the bazaar. Very easy. Then you also need a windstorm pet. Now this specifically would probably be like the storm gulcher. You want to have it so it stacks with all the other storm traps. So there's that. But if person 1 is using treasure card windstorm instead, then you can actually pack an amulet instead. You just kind of have to, depends on who your teammate is. You guys can just like mix match between each other. And then the last item card that you need is a star blade. Either it's on various pieces of gear, obviously depending on your school, and then you also can get it as a tier jewel. So just depends on your gear and where you can get the tier jewel from. Just comes down to personal preference. And then you are packing 3 treasure card elemental blades. You can pack more. You're not packing anything else, but you are rocking a 5 card deck with a bunch of treasure card elemental blades. If you want to pack 2 extra cards like backup hits or extra support cards, by all means go for it. You don't really need it. And then we move on to the first storm hitter. Now this storm hitter does need Stormlord tier 2. You don't really use Stormlord. It's just more of a backup scenario, just because the fact is a lot of these mobs have V-Plague, Plague, Shield Spam, etc. So just as a safety net, you are packing a Stormlord. Just like I said, it's a safety net option, just so you can have it. And then other than that, you are packing 2 Stormblade item cards. One is from an amulet or a jewel, so if you have a Reaver amulet, easy option right there. If not, get a tier jewel and just socket it on a piece of gear. Or if you want to rock the triangle dual blade, that's an option too. And then the other blade that you're using is from a pet. So rock a pet that has an item card Stormblade on it. There's so many now at this point, so just whatever your personal preference is. And then you also are rocking a Storm Trap in main deck. You also need Floodblade, but like I said, it's not needed. It's recommended just because the fact is, like I said, V-Plagues, Plagues, Shield Spam. If you are weaved into life and you are rank 4, I do recommend that. But if not, it's not the end of the world. Just like I said, switch your Flood Blade to a 35 blade that's not matching someone else. So that's something you can do, as I stated. And then you also need a King Art. The tier does not matter of the King Art. It can be tier 1 for all I care, because tier 1's not banned. So if you have max tier King Art, that's amazing. If not, it's not the end of the world. You still kill with tier 1. And then lastly, you are packing treasure cards as well. So you're packing 2 Storm Traps. If you want to pack more, by all means, go for it. So in total, you are rocking a 6-card deck instead of a 7. So you have 1 extra slot. If you want to put something else, maybe like a Wand Hit or like a 2-pip Lightning Bats, that's an option. I'm just giving you guys some more variety. And then lastly, we have the Storm 2, which has a Mass Trap Wand, which you can get from various sources, like I said, Rematch, or the Wastelander Wand, or as well as the Headmaster Wand. I prefer Headmaster Wand. That's just me. I've always used it. But by all means, if you want to use the other 2 ones, go for it. As well as you do need an item card Storm Trap. You can stock that on via Tier Jewel, or you can rock Reaver Boots. I believe I was rocking Reaver Boots on my setup, so that's just an option. Then of course, pack a Stormblade. You do want to pack a Lightning Bats. The Lightning Bats doesn't matter what tier. It can be tier 2, just because I slightly recommend it, but you can rock a tier 1 Lightning Bats and you'll be fine. It's just more of a backup hit scenario. That's the only reason you're packing it. And the last thing, which is the important card, which is your Sirens. Your Sirens is going to be used basically in every fight, so you want to have that at least tier 2. If you have a higher tier, that's amazing, right? So you don't have to worry about Plagues, V-Plagues, and all that, but you do need at least tier 2 to get at least Path B, because if not, you can't use Path A in advanced content. And then of course you do have treasure cards. You are packing Stormblades. You can pack more. You only need 3. Mainly I believe you only need like 2 or something like that, but it's just as a safety net, you're packing more. Just realistically, just pack your whole sideboard with Stormblades. And then of course you are rocking a 5-card deck, so you have plenty of wiggle room. So if you want to pack like a Stormlord as well, a Path B Stormlord, or as well as like another hit, by all means go for it, because it depends on your team stats and who's weaved and everything like that. So there's a little bit of variables when it comes to that. So, you know, if they do live, you want to have some hits just in case for that. And those are the deck setups. So now we can actually go into the strategies of how to do these fights. So to start off with the Death Satyr, the first boss that you encounter, and he's Death Life. He has about 7k HP, and he does have some cheats. Nothing drastic other than, hey, if you blade, he will put a weakness on you. Also, I don't recommend bringing auras in this dungeon, just because the fact is they love having reaction based cheats to your auras, so I wouldn't bring auras at all into this whole dungeon. Another thing I wouldn't recommend bringing at all is bubbles. No storm bubbles or any type of bubble depending on your hitter, due to the fact is a lot of these mobs have bubbles in their deck. So what if by chance the turn you hit, someone bubble change it? So same thing with Poseidon. Poseidon has bubbles in his deck when you fight Hades, and I believe all the other mobs, like majority of the mobs in this whole dungeon, have bubble changes. So be wary about that. Don't rely on those. Same thing with auras. I wouldn't rely on those either. The main thing you should be worrying about when it comes to Death Satyr is if you blade, he will put a weakness on the target that receives the blade. Now, it's not the biggest deal in the world because we're buff stacking so much to the point where that weakness doesn't even matter. If you want to go for a trap stacking route, you by all means go for it, but that doesn't change the fact that he probably has like Plague or V-Plague in his deck. The mobs aren't really an issue other than they have the chance of changing the bubble from what I remember, but the mobs don't have anything like crazy cheat-wise or health-wise. But realistically, you're just doing done it pips, so you can have that for your Sirens, and then after that, you're just spamming all the blades that are in your deck, so like Elemental Blade, the Storm Blade from the pet, and then you're also using that Storm Trap that is in your deck. If you don't want to use that Storm Trap and use a treasure card Storm Blade, by all means go for it, just pack another Storm Blade. But I just put a trap because it's less animation time, because the fact is every time you do apply a blade, he will just put a weakness on the target. So that's why I just put a Storm Trap on there, just specifically for the boss, because you do so much damage when it comes to the split, but you just need it for the boss specifically. So that's why I just put a Storm Trap specifically on the boss. And then after that, you guys can see it's just really buff stacking into Sirens. It's a really straightforward fight. But like I said, if you don't want to do blades, by all means do traps. And as well as if you are trying to use another hitter, you can use a myth hitter. As I always state in the other videos, you can bring a myth hitter, you can bring a death hitter or something. Just remember vice versa. If we're doing blades in here, you should probably do blade stack as well on whoever the hitter is. You can even bring a person, if you are bringing like 2 separate schools, not the same school, what you could do is have one person target the Death Satyr and then have the other person AoE the mobs. That's another option for you guys as well. And you can also spam blade storms and stuff like that too if you want to. It's pretty straightforward of a fight. But that's really it for Death Satyr. Nothing like drastic when it comes to this whole gimmick. Now, after you defeat the Death Satyr, you have to talk to Charon, and this is the portion of the video where you have to collect the Petrified Wood. Now, I feel like it's been a long time since people remember where the Petrified Wood is, so I'm going to include that as well in the video. But there's 6 pieces of Petrified Wood that you have to go grab. There will be footage in the background showcasing where all the 6 pieces are. But the first one, you just go up the little staircase, and then there should be one piece by the statue, and then the other one is next to the bronze hoplites. It's like up a little like small little hill. You just go up there and you can grab that one, and then the next one that you grab is by the doom bones in the far back. It's usually next to like a sandstone spawn, but sometimes that sandstone doesn't spawn there, but you'll see the entity because it'll be sitting there just patiently waiting for you to grab it. All of wood is always in the same spot, so that's the 3rd piece right there. And if you make your way back to where the Death Satyr was, there's one on the way back. And then after you grab that one, before you talk to Orpheus, there's like a little hill in between the fawn house and Orpheus. There's one right there. And then if you go past Orpheus, all the way like at spawn, you go up the hill where the wisps and stuff is. The last one is over there. And those are your 6 pieces of the Petrified Wood. And then you just go back, talk to Charon. And after that, you just simply go fight the Death Minotaur. Death Minotaur is a tad bit of an annoying fight. So just like how we had in the first fight where you would get weakness if you were blade, you don't really want to blade in this fight due to the fact that you'll do more damage. So I don't recommend you blading at all in this fight. Instead, we're just trap stack spamming. So that's why we have so many different traps like mass hex. We're also using just general traps on the Death Minotaur. Now, the same thing with the mobs. The mobs are a little bit tad bit annoying as well because they do have weaknesses in their deck. So there could be a probability of you having a weakness of you getting a plague on you. And that is very annoying. Of course, someone will probably just message me saying, hey, why can't I just use Purge? By all means, go for it. But I'd rather just power through all those hits or all those debuffs and just, you know, use my hit and kill. But in this fight, we're using one storm to King Art the boss because you have the pips. It's like, might as well, why not? You can use a Triton if you want to, but I just was like, you know what, King Art, why as well, in case you get hit with more weaknesses. But realistically, you should be stagger joining on your storms, so then the mobs don't aggro and target you, or target the hitters specifically. So that's something you can do. But realistically, just spamming traps, mass trap, all the different types of traps, all the different windstorms and stuff like that, and then just trap stacking and killing the boss with King Art, and then just silencing and using that to kill the mobs only. The King Art will drastically overkill the Minotaur. When you guys see it, it'll probably do like 20k or something. But the reason why it's doing so much is because it's going based upon the chance of you getting hit with a weakness of you playing a plague. So yeah, if there's ever a scenario where you get hit with that, there's not really that big of a deal because your King Art's doing 20k or something like that, some absurd amount. Especially with the crit. I'm probably calculating based upon a crit. But yeah, your King Art just drastically kills. And then of course the Sirens. The Sirens just about kills because of course it depends on the weaknesses and the debuffs of course. So yeah, it barely kills. If not, that's why we always have backup hits. Of course, that's why Stormlord's also packing the Stormlord and such. And if you want to, you can pack up backup hits in general just for these mobs. Just because the fact is they are balanced. These balanced mobs do have weaknesses and all that thing, or all those things. So it's a little bit annoying, But other than that, the Minotaur fight's not that big of a deal. And then we move on to the puzzle portion of this video where you do talk to Stheno. I don't know how to pronounce this. I've tried to look this up for this video. I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna just call it the Medusa looking boss, okay? You don't mind me. But anyways, to do the puzzle, you go to each different pathway. It doesn't matter the order you go into. You just have to collect the urns. And then once you do each pathway, collect the urns, and you walk back out, you have to put the urns in the correct order, which there is a little symbol at the bottom of each portal, which means 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if you put them in the wrong order, let's say you just click 4 or 3 or 2 instead for like the first option, you will have to fight the boss. Now, I do recommend fighting this boss because it has a chance to drop the Ice Skelterion pet, which you want to collect all the pets. I will be talking about it in a featured video. I'm just waiting on them to fix some of the pets, but yeah, it drops the Ice Skelterion pet, so I do recommend just doing this fight in general. Now, the way that you do this fight is literally the exact same thing as you do for Death Minotaur. You're doing the verbatim exact same strat, because it is Ice Myth, so you do have to keep that in mind. So what you can just do is, like I said, do the exact same strat, do a bunch of mass X's, well, one mass X, but a bunch of mass traps, storm trap, etc., and King Guard into Sirens. Now, as I said earlier on in this video, if you are not running storms, what you could just do is have two hitters. One person target the boss, and then the other person AoE the mobs. Same gimmick on the first fight, as I was saying. You can do the exact same thing against Death Minotaur, and you can do the exact same thing to this boss as well. The boss has like 7.2k HP, which isn't bad, but still, I think just having a King Art just overkill, because why not? And you can just use Sirens to kill the mobs. It's a very straightforward fight, nothing crazy. No cheats that are like drastic. Like if there's a cheat that's really drastic, I would probably bring it up, like how I usually do in past videos, but there's nothing crazy in this challenge mode at all, other than you just have to pay attention to what their deck is, and you know, just force it upon yourself to kill them in the most absurd way with damage. But after you do this, you will go and fight Cerberus. Now, Cerberus, I remember on standard mode, they all would put like shields and stuff like that. That's no longer the case on round 1. I believe each one does a specific thing. So like one of them will put like a hot on themselves. The other one will put like tri-shield, which is like the universal shield. And then the other one, I believe, did like donate pips. So instead of everyone having a shield, only one of them has a shield. And when it comes to strategy for this fight, all you do is just blade stack the crap out of the last person. So instead of like what we were doing before on Death Satyr, it's a little bit more than that, because what we're doing is we're actually just blade stacking. Now, if you could do mass traps, like, you know, for example, mass X and such, but the reason why we don't do that is because I believe one of the Cerberuses takes off that trap on them specifically. So you'll have the traps on 2 of the heads, but not the 3rd head. So with all that information in mind, all we're just doing is, like I said, just blade stack, easier all your different types of buffs, and put it on the last person Sirens. Now, of course, as I said earlier on in this video, if you're not running storms, just have a literal different school hitter and just buff stack the hell out of them. It might take you an additional round or two because of the amount of HP that they have, or at that point, what you could just do is just have 3 different hitters, each hitter target their own Cerberus. That's another option. Or if you want to have 2 hitters, maybe one kills the one with the shields and the other one kills the other 2 heads. That's another option as well. But as I said, I'm just giving you guys options. It's a pretty straightforward fight. The dungeon's not that hard on challenge mode. That's why I'm not going too far in depth on this one. The other ones were a little bit more annoying, just because the fact is, like, you know, you have to do more reaction based stuff, I felt like. But with this one, it's really not that bad. But Cerberus, that's really it. Just buff stack and make sure you're using donate pips on the last person, and go for Sirens. And if you're not, or if you do not kill, you just literally hit with a follow-up Stormlord, which is on Storm 1, of course. And then you can lightning bats if need be, but that's if they live and you know, you don't do enough damage. So that's just something you have to be worried about. And then lastly, we move on to the final fight of the dungeon, which is Hades, Poseidon, and Zeus. You fight all 3 of them at the same time for the final boss. Now, when it comes to the cheats, Hades, realistically, the only, I guess, annoying thing that he has is that every round he will put a plus 70% incoming negative aura on each player. Well, not each player, it's random on who it is, but what it will do is a 70% death incoming damage. Now, you might think that and be like, okay, well, this is OP. It's really not. Like, how I think of it is he doesn't do that much damage. Regardless of the fact that he has a 70% incoming aura on some wizards, he still doesn't do enough. All it is just makes it so you can't really aura in this fight. So this is like another prime example of why we're not using like reinforce in this dungeon at all. And also there's another reason why we're not even using bubble, because Poseidon does have bubbles in his deck. So like, let's say you are packing like a 35 bubble, you can replace it to a 25 bubble. So if you want to calc based upon that, by all means go for it, but then you're only packing a bubble for one specific fight. I don't really think it's worth it at that point. Another thing you have to be worried about when it comes to Hades is that every time you blade, he puts a shield on himself. You can trap stack Hades and kill him, and he won't put a shield on himself. So that's another option you guys can do for Hades. Another thing you do have to be wary about is that he does have plagues and V-plagues in his deck. Now, if you hit on round 3 and you do have a plague on you, or a V-plague, or even both, you more likely are not going to be killing Hades. Most of the time, you will be killing Poseidon and Zeus. so it's not really a thing that you have to be worried about. But on the off chance they do live, and on the off chance Hades lives, because Hades will more likely live, because the fact is he's going to have shields on himself. He's also going to be spamming plagues and weaknesses, or plagues and v-plagues, I mean. So when that happens, just have the other hitter use a King Art or a Stormlord to do the final blow. But if multiple people live, of course, just go for a Stormlord, and that's just fine. But if not, what you could just do is just use King Art and just kill Hades, and then also use a Path A Lightning Bats to just finish the job. This is only in a scenario where you get hit with Plague and V-Plague, so that's really it. Other than that, he doesn't have like the most insane cheats, other than you're not really able to aura in this fight due to the fact is, hey, he puts negative auras on wizards, as well as he has a cheat for it, and the fact is that he's also shielding every time you blade. So when it comes to this fight, this is the strategy we're doing. As I said, it's literally the exact same strat as the Cerberus. You're just buff stacking and then sirens it. Now that's just a simple way. What you could also do is have two hitters, one person target Hades. So maybe you want to do a bunch of mass traps and then just target Hades, so you don't have to worry about shields. That's something you can do, but there is still a chance of him doing a V-Plague or Plague. And if you want to circumvent that, realistically, you can have a person carry Purge. That's another option, but I just prefer just egoing all the debuffs and just going for a sirens. That's basically what I was doing in the Poseidon stuff, so I'm doing the exact same stuff and just using sirens. 2 out of the 3 dungeons is just AoE spam, so this is a prime example of what you're doing in the final fight. Yeah, and another thing is, I believe the other 2 bosses, I believe Zeus should also be weaved. If I remember, he's probably weaved into Storm, because I remember he did use a negative aura on us, and it was an attenuate that was rank 4 weaving. So basically the gods of Aquila are weaved now apparently on challenge mode, which is interesting to see. Other than that, that's basically the dungeon. Of course, what I said was, if you're not running storms, have one person just target Hades, just trap stack spam. The turn you hit, you can also purge the hitter, so that's another option, and then just AoE kill Zeus and Poseidon. That's something you can do. I'm just giving you guys different options, because overall I think Tartarus isn't that difficult. I think the one that people are probably going to be struggling with is maybe Atlantia, and after Atlantia, probably Mount Olympus. The Mount Olympus, the only issue with it is just because it's a time crunch, just because you spend so much time in that dungeon. Versus Tartarus, you don't really spend that much, because since it's a higher level, you have access to more damage, and you have access to just sirens. Like, yes, you can sirens in Atlantia too, but there's not as heavy hitting cheats compared to Tartarus. Tartarus doesn't really have any heavy hitting cheats. Mainly it's just specifically the Poseidon fight in Atlantia, due to the fact is because you can get hit with a Stormlord into a Frost Giant. Like, these guys don't do as much damage compared to that, in my opinion. But that's it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed me covering all the challenge modes for Aquila. If things change, of course, if it's drastic enough, I will make a separate video going over the dungeon once again. But if not, all the guides that I've talked about are just going to be in the Discord, and maybe I might just even update the guide if I need to on the slides and not make a video. So if you want to check the slides in the future, and maybe you're watching this from a year from now, or maybe 2 years from now, and you're probably wondering how to do this fight, I mean, I would check the Discord first just to see if the slides are updated by chance versus the video. So hope you guys are having a good start to the week, and that's it for me. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all type of stuff. Join Discord, as I always say, and leave a comment on this video. Let me know what you guys think of the Aquila dungeons. But that is it, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace out, guys.